Hi, Eugenia.
Hi.
Thank you for being here at the Aral School. For those of you who don't know you, could you please introduce yourself and tell a bit about what brings you to the Aral School and to Karakalpakstan?
Yes. So I'm Eugenia. I'm an Italian designer based in Venice. And I'm here because I've been working for the past 6 years around sustainable farming practices and their relationship with the bio-based materials. And so in the context of the Aral School, I think I'm bringing this perspective of looking at local resources more in relation to wider sustainability issues.
Okay. So a lot of your work and your life is tied to Venice, which is known to be one of the cities with an abundance of water, and actually a lot of problems that come with that. You're coming here into a region where there's devastating scarcity of water and desiccation. What are some commonalities or maybe differences or lessons that you can, or parallels that you can draw between Venice and Karakalpakstan?
Yes. So yeah, if let's say if they stand at the opposite for the presence of water, they actually come together in the presence of salt.
Yeah.
And so because the land, also in Venice, because it's a lagoon and the islands that are inside the lagoon, the main island, but also the islands where we farm, where there is more, let's say, green spaces. They are characterized by soil that has a high salinity. And so you actually find the same plants that you find here, you would find them there. And so there's no water, but the salts allow for the same life to thrive or not thrive.
Okay, that's definitely something we should look into, the parallels. And I think that actually for another project that ACDF was doing, this has already been something that people looked into, these halophytic plants. And so you advocate in your work, you advocate for syntropic approaches and polycultural systems. In this landscape here in Uzbekistan in general, it's a landscape that has been recently formed by monocultures and massive extraction. So how do you begin to plant seeds of change and agency in a region like this?
Yeah. So first, I would say that actually the issue of monoculture, it's definitely very strong here, but I come from Italy and we are facing a lot of similar problems. Monoculture, high percentage of toxicity in the soil, in the water, high salinity of the soil all over the coastal areas. So it's different, the scale is different, but same problems. And I think that so when I was working with an agronomist, Fernando Bautista Exposito, he was always telling me how from a monocrop, if you start planting 2 plants together, you already have doubled the biodiversity. And actually polycultures and Syntropia are looking at these much higher complex ecosystems where you have like 30 and 40 species coexisting together. But you do need to plant seeds and you do need to act like gradually and step by step. And so I think that on the one hand, we can try to imagine the highest complexity. And through the workshops, we saw that how the yurt come from very, for example, complex landscapes. But if we need to think of a transition, I think that we do need to also act gradually, and again, adding one plant more, you're already doubling it. You do 3 and then that starts having multiplying effects.
I see. And what is the main monoculture in Italy actually?
So where I come from, which is the northern part, is the Po Valley. You would have corn, soya, and grass to feed the cows because it's all about cow farming for dairies.
Yeah, and for the projects that you have worked on, have you also used some of these crops in the projects, or was your first plant, let's say, something else that is not a typical monocultural plant of that region?
No, so I didn't work in there. I worked in Spain, but like for example, there we were looking at olive oil fields, and then the discussion that we were having is that right now olive oil, like also in Italy, there is this way of managing the soil under that. The idea is that you put herbicides, you try to reduce as much as possible the kind of green that there are, but actually this path between the trees are a space where you could plant new species. And a lot of farmers are trying to do it, like they grow wheat, they grow legumes, and that's again, like, you know, like your main crop is still the olives, but you small, like step by step, you start adding other crops, and then the biodiversity exponentially grows.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. In your praxis, you work a lot with adaptation, finding alternative methods to do things in general. So my question is about how do you start designing for a landscape that is constantly in change? And once we start noticing this change and actually surfacing it as much as, for example, now we're doing here at the Aral School, how do you, design for something that is in a state of constant change, basically?
Yeah. So first of all, that's the objective. It's like not trying to think that design needs to depend from fixed systems. And in this case, I'm talking about bio-based materials and the landscape that produce the resources. And then this change is what you want. You want to through the use of specific material, through the development of specific process, you want to foster the constant change, and you want to create systems that are following the change of the ecosystem, and they're adapting from being open to a diversity of biomass that would change across the years, or that would make the complex ecosystem. And then the question is, how do you implement, how do you design products in this case, because that's what I'm doing, that exist more as framework rather than define objects. And then once you have specific parameters that make the object function, how those parameters adapt to whatever the ecosystem changing is giving you.
Okay, that's beautiful. So that goes into designing tools for that allow for that lack of consistency, right?
Yeah.
And it's basically in the entire thinking about the supply chain, but also in the tools, instruments that are involved.
It's the technologies, it's the system, it's the relationship that you are enacting between the people in the system.
Yeah.
But it then also it ripple down to the actual product itself. Which it's different from what we're expecting. It's like in industrially produced product, and the way we are trading them in the market are fixed objects with a fixed color that season by season is determined by a specific code. The material performance is addressed specifically on just a specific composition. So it's a complex transition, but how do we expect different things from the product that we consume also?
I see. Amazing. Thank you. So now we're going to do a blitz. Now we're going to do a blitz. I'll just name 2 terms, and then you have to select one.
Okay.
And maybe if you want, elaborate a bit on why you chose a certain thing, but not all of them require, I think, elaboration. Some of them are intuitive. So I'll start with high tide versus low tide.
Low tide.
Low tide.
Yeah.
Why?
Because you can go fish mussels in Venice when the low tide is there.
Okay, that's a good one. Okay, next one is tool versus skill.
Difficult, very difficult. Tools, I would say, because tools carry the skills, and they can, well, the skills, you can exchange them, and I think the tool per se can also teach you a lot.
Okay.
It's
amazing. Yeah, I see. So archive or field in relation to work? Archival work or field work?
Okay. You can't choose. They need to come together. They really need to come together.
Ask this question because of this beautiful example that you showed with the work of like open source weaving machines and all of that. It was really amazing how they look back into the history, and then they figured out ways to process more inconsistent fabrics, threads.
Yeah, no, I think it's very important that they come together at this moment in time, because we know the complex crisis or like situation we are in at this point. But the lifestyle we're living in, it's quite of a new lifestyle. You know, it's like we don't have to go back so much in time to have a completely different economy and completely relationship, completely different material culture. And so actually, before we lose everything, now it's the time to look back, but for the present. So in the field.
I hope we can find something here as well.
Mm.
So next one is machine versus hand in relation to craft and making.
I would say hands, because also machine, they're mainly operated by hands.
Okay. Spontaneous or planned?
Difficult. Planned.
Planned.
Yes.
Okay. Plov or manti? And I actually know the answer to this one because
I'm gluten-free, so
yes.
plov.
But it's a traditional one. We always
Okay,
ask
plov.
that. If you're gluten-free, yeah.
I'll go for plov.
Well, I'll go for plov in a second as well, actually. Today I really feel like plov. So, and my last question traditionally is about hope. So, in your matrix that you've presented to us, from unintentional, intentional, certain, uncertain, where would you place hope for you right now?
Yeah. So I have a bit of a problem with the word hope, maybe. As I was saying, like I had some discussion around the use of hope, and I feel that hope it doesn't give enough like value to responsibility and the actual power that we have, and the power of our intention and action. It's like if hope is a little bit beyond us, I feel,
like
and that's
agency.
what makes me, agency, that's the right word. Exactly. And that's my problem. I feel that if hope would be full of agency, then it would be a great word. But I guess that then maybe wouldn't be hope. I don't know.
So the problem is basically if we put agency, it's too unintentional.
It's too unintentional for me, hope.
So we need to bring it more
toward the intentional
and agential. Right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, cool. All right. Thank you so much for joining us and for spending a few days with us and contributing to this amazing work that is being done here at the Aral Sea. Thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.
Yes, thank you.